Yeah.
That sounds good.
All right. Is everybody ready?
Yeah. Do
Yes,
you want me
sir.
to set a timer, or do you have a clock, Converse? My statement should be
You
less
wanna
than 5 minutes, but I can time myself.
Yeah, if you guys want to just time yourselves, just keep it around 5 minutes, and we'll get
Yeah.
started, I guess. So the debate
Yeah.
proposition is going to be: is abortion permittable under 20 weeks, something like that, or
But yeah, I'm just saying abortion ought be legal before 20 weeks. Yeah.
before 20 weeks? Okay,
He's taking the pro-choice. I'm taking the more pro-life position on this.
Yeah.
okay, great. So we've got a debate between SkylarFiction and Trick tonight on should abortion be permitted under 20 weeks or before 20 weeks. Trick's going to start with a 5-minute opening. Trick.
Yeah. Thank you, Converse, for moderating. I know it was like a last minute thing. I really appreciate it. And thank you, Skylar, for doing the debate. I appreciate it as well. Like it was just iterated, the position I'm taking for this debate is a pro-choice one. And what I mean by that is the termination of a pregnancy before 20 weeks. The primary reason that I hold this position is I don't think there's a good reason to think that a fetus in the womb has any personhood prior to that marker, as the research would show. However, my debate opponent in a prior debate has said that he values life, and I agree with that, right? And I wanted to put a quote that Skylar used in a prior debate by Fred Rogers. And the quote goes, "Fame is a four-letter word, and like tape or Zoom or face or pain or life or love, what ultimately matters is what we do with it." Now, like I said, uh, the part we disagree on is what we mean by life. I don't put like a plant up at the same value as I do Skylar, and I don't have the same value for a fetus as I do a child that's just born. All that being said, I still value the fetus, but the growing problems in our foster care and the demographics in which abortion bans would affect, I don't value the fetus more. There's about 400,000 children in the foster care system, with the average age being 7. A 69-page research paper put out by the National Council for Adoption found that in 2019 there were a little over 100,000 adoptions, and in 2020 that number went down by more than 10%. This means the chance of a kid in foster care getting adopted is less than one quarter. Abortion bans will likely increase this number, making it less likely someone will be adopted. Moreover, 75% of people who get abortions are in low income houses. 26% of those patients had incomes um, had incomes of 100 to 199% of the federal poverty level, and 49% had incomes of less than 100% of the federal poverty level, which is $15,730 for a family of two. This is important because not only are you going to affect the child that's born into poverty, but being born into poverty increases the likelihood of a child becoming a criminal by nearly sevenfold. So, an abortion ban will increase victims of violent crimes and make the mother and child suffer, as well as overload our already overloaded foster care system. Um, I'd like to summarize my opening statement with a quote from a book called Thinking Critically About Abortion. And it goes, "If a being is and always has been completely unconscious, that being can't be harmed. Being harmed requires a turn for the worse for that being, but there is no for that being for early fetuses yet. This, um, meaning things can't get worse for them, so killing them doesn't harm them or make them worse off compared to how they were, since they never were in a conscious way." Finally, I just want you guys to, in the audience and Skylar, to ask yourself, if you were to run into a burning building and in one room there's two young children and in the other room there's 100 fertilized eggs on a petri dish, which would you save? Thank you.
All right, thanks for that, Trick. Skylar, you want to go ahead with your opening?
Yeah. So I want to start by talking about how difficult of a conversation or a debate this is for folks because there's a lot of emotion when it comes down to it. When it comes to the idea of women's rights, or certainly on the pro-life side, people can be very passionate about fighting for life. And I want to acknowledge that. And I want to talk a little bit about the idea of why people have abortions, right? And I think Trick was kind of hit on those a little bit. One being economics, one can be fear. Um, and these are solvable problems, right? We can fix the economic issue. we can fix the reasons women have abortions if they don't feel supported or cared for, right? These are system issues that we need to work on. And what we're really talking about when we talk about abortion, in my opinion, is the idea of devaluing human life. And whenever throughout history we've devalued human life, it's led to atrocities. You can see this, right, in situations like slavery or segregation. We looked at black folks as inferior, or not equal to whites. We saw this in Nazi Germany, where the Jews were looked at as unequal and inferior to the German white race. And what we hear now with abortions is that it's just a clump of cells. It's not a person. It has no life, no potential. And this is what we call the devaluing of human life. Because in order to commit atrocities or to do things we typically won't do, we usually devalue first. And this is what we've done to get the abortion numbers so high in our country. In the US, we have almost close to 1 million abortions a year. That's almost double the next killer of human life, which is heart disease. Almost double. And what leads to these things, as I've discussed, are the circumstances. And what we've done is we've come up with a solution that ends life to solve other problems. We have poverty issues in this country. We have issues with men not supporting their women and leaving them high and dry. We've got medical cost, lack of medical cost in this country, right? But these are the things that we should be focusing on correcting, right? To help lower the number of abortions, lower the reason why people have abortions in this country. I think I'm going to leave it there. I don't want to go too long with my opening, but I just wanted to give you some basic ideas of what I'm talking about and what I'll be focusing on today. And that's the idea of changing our system to eliminate abortion. I would not charge women for crimes for getting abortions. I would not put women in prison. I would find ways, if we outlawed it, to punish the doctors by taking away their medical licenses if they perform the operation. Okay, I think that's good.
Skylar, for that. And you guys want, we'll kick it over to Trick to start off the open discussion.
Yeah, brother.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it. I took some notes down from your opening statement, Skylar. I think the first question I wanted to ask you is the same question I finished my opening statement with. If you were to run into a burning building, and in one room there's 2 small children, and in the other room there's 100 fertilized eggs, do you know which one would you choose to save there?
Yeah, I would probably choose the 2 children since they're going to
Okay.
experience a pain opposed to the petri dishes. Um, and that's why I would probably choose the 2 children over the petri dishes because of the pain those humans might feel.
Right. So I think it could be argued the same way that in your opening statement you just argued that you're devaluing the 100 lives of the fertilized eggs compared to the 2 children. And that's the type of like view I have in this conversation is every time we say that I'm like depriving value from a thing, it has this underlying assumption that it had value to begin with. And like the quote I finished off with, I don't know what it would mean for something that's never had a waking moment to be worse off because it's never been.
Yeah, I think when we're talking about value, right, with human life and with this scenario, you put me in a scenario like a trolley car problem, right? No matter what, someone's going to die in this situation. And you ask me to make a judgment based on the situation. Like that's a no-win situation here, right? In an abortion situation, we have a live situation or a die situation, which is the difference, right? And
Um,
that's why I would focus on you save the life and fix the problem for why they're trying to end the life.
Yeah, well, one should presumably come before the other, right? So, like, if today all of these abortion bans you're advocating for happened, one, we would just have less doctors, which would be already bad. And the second thing is, we would presumably be having these women being forced into having children who are at less than the federal poverty level, which is just going to cause um, suffering to already existing people. So the same way that when I put you in the trolley problem, you valued the existing people who are going to experience pain versus the potential future people who can experience pain if they never are born, right? I'm doing the same thing in this debate. Right? I think that it if we have a million abortions and you're 7 times more likely to commit violent crimes if you're under the federal poverty level, and 50% of all abortions are under the federal poverty level. That's a lot of future victims we're causing. Not only that, we're causing extreme suffering to women, that woman who's in that situation, the child who's in poverty, and that's just half of the abortions. Not to mention the fact that I think 31% of women who get abortions already have a child, and the reason that they state that they're getting another reason they're saying that they get an abortion is because they want to be able to focus on that child and giving it a good life. So it seems like a lot of the
Yeah.
things that women are doing is they are choosing to value life, but they just recognize that the existing persons value more than the potential people, the same way that you did in the trolley problem.
Yeah. So I want to cover a couple things here. Once again, you're appealing to economics, right? As if like economics, we recognize what the reason for the abortion is, and that's the economics. And what your solution to the economic problem is kill the life, kill the offspring, right? Instead of fix the economics, right? We could save the life and fix the economics. The other thing I also heard you talking about was crime. And once again, you're trying to solve crime, future crime that hasn't happened, right? By ending the life of the offspring inside the woman. And I don't view these as a acceptable um, choices, right? Uh, if we're not talking about rape or incest, right? Uh, there are many forms of protection, right? There's lots of ways to be safe. Pregnancy is not quite as easy as I think folks want to try to make it out is. Uh, and this idea, right, that we're going to somehow, because someone didn't take the proper precautions, right, that we're going to say, well, hey, since you want to focus more time on your first kid, we're going to eliminate the second kid, right? I'm sorry, I value life too much uh,
Yeah,
to have that type of attitude.
Yeah, so more than half of women who get abortion report that they used at least one form of contraceptive. Um, and this idea that I'm appealing to economics, I do somewhat agree, but yeah, I'm appealing to the way that the current world is. If we want to minimize abortions, we raise awareness for contraceptive and we fix the people that are in poverty so they're going to be more likely to want to have children. I agree. But what we don't do is we don't say, hey, look, you're stuck in poverty. We're going to ban abortions and then try and fix the poverty that we have. We should probably fix the poverty before banning the abortions because that's going to have the best bang for our buck in the sense that we're going to minimize the most amount of suffering for actual people, right? Because fetuses aren't
That we
actual
agree on.
people. Well,
Well, I
yeah,
don't agree with that, but I do agree with your first part. I agree with that if I were in charge, first step, fix the economic issues. Second step, ban the abortions. I totally agree with you on that. Now, I if the person, I don't know how you're defining a person or what definition of a person you're using, right? I'm defining it as a life, right? Life, whether you want to call it a person or not, is valuable to me. Um, and like I said, this all comes down to the idea. Like, I mean, think about even the way people talk about abortion now. It's just a clump of cells. It's not a real thing. It's not a life, right? And it's excuse making. It's dehumanizing, so they can justify the actions of ending their own offspring. Go ahead, my friend.
yeah. I think you're humanizing something that I wouldn't, like I said, call a person. If person is just synonymous with the word life, then plants are persons now. Um,
Did you use the word humanizing? Because it
yeah.
is a human. Well, I mean, I am humanizing a human by definition because it is human.
Um, when I think of a human, right, I think of somebody of somebody to refer to, right? A person, a qualia experiences to refer to. That's why, like, when we say a person equals life, I think it's really, we're in the weeds of a very tricky like word game, because plants are life, and I don't think anyone would say plants are persons. Plants are conscious. Animals are life, and I don't think either of us are vegan. So like animals we don't consider persons either. So there's obviously some symmetry breaker between a human being, a baby, and other animals and a plant. And I think that most people understand that to be the experiences and the consciousness that we have, the experience of the passing of time, the recognition of our own thoughts as individuals. And once those cease, we just call that person dead and we put them in the ground, right? Once somebody no longer has conscious experiences and we don't think that they will ever have them again, we say that they're gone, even though their body's still here. The same way that in the womb, you can have a fetus, you can have the entire body, but it doesn't even
Ooh.
have a brain yet. So I don't know why we would ever refer to it as a person.
Would you argue it's okay to kill people who are brain dead?
We already do.
No, I'm asking you, would you argue that it's I know, well, it depends on the state, actually. It's not actually. I think you actually it depends on a lot of circumstances. I think if it depends if they sign a certain do not resuscitate. There's a lot of things they just can't kill you because you have no brain function.
If a doctor like declares somebody like brain dead, I'm pretty sure they're just dead. But I'm not a practicing doctor.
Yeah.
If
Those
someone's brain
yeah,
dead,
that's
they don't even feel pain. And I'm pretty sure under the definition is when a doctor calls like says someone's brain dead, there isn't like they don't see a foreseeable recovery. So
well, I guess I'm pointing out that there are people without consciousness, right? That uh you are arguing that a person isn't a person unless they have consciousness. Or maybe I should just ask you to define personhood real quick. Maybe that might clear it up before I accuse you of something. Could you
yeah, like
define personhood for me?
yeah, it's good. I think a person's a human being regarded as an individual.
Okay. All right. So that one, okay, that one matches what a fertilized egg is. Yeah, that's a human
I don't
being.
think I don't
It's
think a
an
fertilized
individual.
eggs. Yeah, I don't think it's an individual, right? I don't think it has any like qualia experiences. I think in order for something to be an individual, it needs to have some type of like qualia experience, and then for like
Is that just a personal definition of yours?
I think that's going to be like the philosophical definition of what it means to be like a person.
What is so wait, qualia? So are you saying that the life isn't experiencing anything?
Um,
Because it's certainly experiencing things in the womb.
yeah, at around 20 weeks, it starts to experience things.
Well, it has a
Prior to
heartbeat
that,
before that. It has a heartbeat, and then it's like it's feeding. It can experience being like. I mean, it's growing. It's got to be experiencing itself grow.
you think things can experience without a brain?
Well, I guess that's what I'm trying to understand. When you say experience, you're once again referring to consciousness, right?
Yeah.
So you're okay. So you're saying that if it isn't conscious, it's not a person.
If something has never had consciousness, it cannot be a person. Correct. If something has in the
But it
past,
can be a life, though.
yeah, same way that pigs and chickens are life, in the same way that my Venus
Perfect.
flytrap is
Gotcha.
life, in the same way that my other plants are life. Yes.
So I just figured out how you devalue human life. And that's by defining consciousness as whether you should be able to live or not. You don't have consciousness yet at early stages, so therefore your life is devalued and it's okay to end it.
Well, devalued seems to beg the question of the topic of the debate, right? So devalue implies that there was value to begin with, and I
You
don't
don't
think
think the
that
fetus has any wait a minute, you don't think a fetus has any value? I think
not
you're a
not not
Christian, right?
not not in the sense of personhood or agency or what society or the law
Well,
ought recognize.
you as
Yeah.
a person, yeah, but
hmm
I'm pretty sure you're a Christian, right? You're not saying that that fetus doesn't have value given to it by God?
I think everything has value given to it by God, but I think that that question's a bit of
Ah,
a red
okay.
herring,
It's
right? So
no,
I
it's
think
fair.
that
No, it's fair. No, no, I get what you're saying. That's not fair for me to bring your religious definition. But I just wanted to see. I wanted to see that you're arguing a secular position here, but your actual belief is that it does have value.
no,
So
no, I don't think it has value in the sense. So there's right. So there's some equivocation going on here, right? When I say that the fetus never had value to begin with, I'm saying it never had value in the sense of a person. Because if at any point in this entire debate you could demonstrate that this fetus at conception somehow had some conscious experiences, then I would just concede and say abortion should be banned, because I think that the law would have to recognize it with its fundamental right to life. But the legal system has no reason to think that it's a person and shouldn't recognize it as with that fundamental right, which means that there should be the legal grounds for abortion.
Yes. So you're like I said, where you don't see someone as a human is if they don't have consciousness yet. And that's where you choose to devalue and you say it's okay to end the life of it. I just don't share that opinion, man. I know that most of the time they're gonna get to a point where they do achieve consciousness, right?
Yeah, but you
And I do
already.
see the val. Hold on, let's finish my sentence.
Yeah,
But I
sorry, go
already,
ahead.
and I also, no, no, you're good, man. No, this has been a fun debate so far. Uh, and like I value that life, right? Whether it has the conscious or not, right? Like this is like I'll give you another example. I mean, listen, you want some hard facts? Go look at some of the European countries and the people with Down syndrome. How many of them exist in those countries, right? And you could talk about how those folks, like you view early consciousness, view that people with Down syndrome shouldn't exist, right? So this is all when I gets down and I'll wrap it up here. It all comes down to biases or reasons we think or we come up with to why we shouldn't let that life go on. And I don't think there's many reasons for us to do that. Go ahead, my
Yeah,
brother.
yeah, uh, so I mean, you've already done the exact same thing that you're accusing me of in my very first question. When I asked you the trolley problem example of 100 fertilized eggs versus 2 children,
Mhm.
we could do 100 fetuses versus two
Mhm.
existing children, and I think the answer would probably be relatively the same. Like, it could just be further in development, but they're not inside of a womb, and you're going to go save the 2 children, just like you articulated. And that just to me says that you have more of a value for already existing people that we can recognize that experience things versus things that don't experience things. And I'm making the exact same argument, right? When we do abortion bans, we're going to increase people in the foster care system, which me and you both agree is terrible. We're going to increase the number of people in low income areas, specifically under the federal poverty line. So all we're doing is I think a reasonable characterization is anywhere from 20 to 40,000 of the born kids are going to experience some kind of extreme anguish. So I'm valuing the already existing people who are going to be victims of the violent crimes of these kids that are born into the poverty, and I'm valuing all of the kids that are already in the foster care system that have less than a coin flip on whether or not they're going to be adopted. And if we do abortion bans, that chance is just going to go down, because over the last 50 years, the number of people being adopted has gone down, but somehow the number of people going into the foster care has gone down subsequently while abortions have increased. It seems like when we are able to say, I don't want a child, and pick and choose when we have it during our life, we have less problems in the foster care system. I don't want to raise those because I value the existing life more than I do the potential of a person.
Well, I think there needs to be an important distinction brought up here about the foster care system. Um, First of all, we don't have an issue with a baby adoption, right? Like infants, babies. There's waiting lists to adopt babies, right? Which is would be the stage right after. Well, anyways, right? What the foster homes are older children that have been taken out of their houses, right? So these are older children, a lot of the times in early teens, um, that come from broken homes, abandoned homes, and stuff like that. Uh, and now it's much harder to get them adopted into families because there's also a lot of stuff that comes with that. If you're at the point where a kid's in a foster home, right, taken away from his parents or never had a parents, right, um, they're going to have some probably behavioral issues, emotional issues, right, and it's a lot of work. So I think when we talk about this, it isn't a matter. They're not going to go into foster homes, these babies, if these women choose to have them. Um, right now, like I said, there's waiting lists for babies.
Well,
Um,
yeah, I don't know why we would think they wouldn't go in foster homes. There's 30,000 children in foster care under the age of 1. So absolutely, the majority of these kids are going to be going into foster care. Yeah, there is a long process in order to adopt younger children. The main reason people can't is either they can't afford it because we have problems in the foster care system like that, or they're like you said, there's just a really long waiting slash process. But we already have children under the age of
Yeah.
1 that people are trying to adopt. So all of these new
How
ones
many
aren't
kids
going to
are
be
in
adopted.
foster home? How many people did you say were in foster homes?
There's 407,000 kids inside of the foster care system
And only 30,000 of them, you said
are under the age
roughly,
of 1.
were
Yeah.
left of underage. So that's what that was my point, is the majority of those kids, right? And those 1-year-olds probably, once again, aren't babies just given up for adoption. These are probably babies taken from homes, right? And I can guarantee you those kids, the babies, the 1-year-olds, are going to get adopted before the children or the teens and stuff in the
Yeah, I mean,
issue. But
the
once
average
again,
age is 7,
yeah,
so like they're not. It's not like
yeah.
they're extremely old, and
So
but
that's it is when you have kids.
there's no reason to think that abortion bans would like benefit the foster care system. There's only reasons to think that it would make it much harder for the foster care system because we already have issues with people not being able to adopt, with older kids being like not in the hierarchy of like wanting to be adopted. That needs to be like fixed. If we have more babies coming in, it's just going to reinforce the idea that all these people who want to adopt should just get a newborn instead of trying to help these children who have been in foster care for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, I think this is a great argument for why we got to fix our foster care system, but it's not a great argument for why we should end human life, right? As a solution to a bad foster care problem, right? And we need only look at ourselves. I mean, the issue is, right? And I'll be frank, I don't vote for the Republican Party anymore, but this is why we have the party of pro-life, right? Who does jack crap to actually support women or fund anything, right? And this is why our foster care is like the way it is, and this is why me, as someone who is pro-life and tends now to vote, well, now I'm voting for the Democrats, but what I try to tell people, someone who's a little bit more in the middle, is like, this is like if we want to lower the abortions, you got to lower the reasons women have them, and you can't be pro-life if you ain't pro-services for women, and that's just my opinion on it. Anyways.
Yeah, so I mean, to me, since you've articulated that what you mean by life is like synonymous with person, it just seems like you're like begging a question, right? Because I said that if you could demonstrate that it's a person, then we would just agree. And if you think life is synonymous with person, then it just seems like you're just kind of stating it. Uh, I don't think that if something has never had a conscious experience, I don't know what it would mean for me to harm it.
Yeah,
I don't know
listen, I don't care about your arbitrary definition of why it's okay to kill a life. Like, that's just your arbitrary reason based on your personal preferences, based on the idea that you don't know how it's harming it, right? So, like, that's not important to me. I'm just not supporting your idea, and I'm not trying to like get you to agree the definition of personhood. I'm just trying to get you to acknowledge human life is valuable. It has great potential. Every one of you were born from a mother that lived. You're alive because you weren't aborted. So,
Okay, yeah, I got it. So, what would it mean for you to harm something that has never had a conscious experience?
well, you could call it ending its life,
Yeah, I wait.
killing it. Would you define killing something as harm?
Killings. What do you, it depends on what you mean by killing. Like if we're
It
talking in
depends
like
on what I mean by killing. I mean, what kind of weird definitional word game are we playing here, Trick?
well, if we're talking like killing in the legal definition, then no, I don't think you're killing a fetus
How would the legal definition make it different? Please explain that.
because the legal definition is going to be causing the death of like a person.
Okay.
I don't. Yeah, and I don't think there's sufficient reason to call it a person under the legal definition of person either.
You don't think killing a life is necessary? Now, a person, I see what we just did there. You switched it back to person. Okay. So killing a person is okay. What about killing a life? A
No,
human
no, no.
life? Is
Killing
killing a human
persons
life? Oh, sorry. Is killing a human life harmful? That's what we were talking about.
is killing a human life harmful.
Harmful.
Um, I think there's a lot of baked concepts in there, but I don't think that like I said, I don't think it's harmful to kill something that's never had a conscious
Uh,
experience, right? Because
I'll
what I
ask that question
understand,
again. Is killing human life harmful?
yeah, and I'm sticking to like the topic of the debate on the fetus, and I'm saying that
Well,
killing something inside of the womb. Hold on, like I said, what you just asked has to me a lot of underpinning baked notions. So to answer that question seems weird when I can just like outline it in the particular example we're
like
talking
you could
about.
tell me what's baked into it. I mean, it is a human, right? We both agreed that it is human.
Um,
May not be a person, but it is a human.
okay, yeah, then no, killing human life is not harmful.
Okay. Well, I just gonna have to agree to disagree on that one. Go ahead.
Yeah, so yeah, like I said, I just don't. If what it means to harm something is to have it in a state that it was and then make it worse off, I don't know how something that's never been conscious can be worse off since it never was.
I mean, it just kind of sounds like an argument. I don't know if an argument from ignorance, but it's just like a appeal to ignorance or something. Like I get it. Like you don't know, but it's a life. You're ending the life. Uh, I guess I don't. If you don't see it as harm, I don't know what to tell you, man.
Yeah, so look,
Like I just view ending something's potential, to love, to have blowjobs, to live a great life. Like you're ending it. Like, and it's just not harmful to it in your mind.
yeah, because okay, so what I understand harm to mean is to have something and then make it worse off than it was, right? You've now put it in a state that isn't that is worse than the state that it was existing prior, and in order for that to happen, it needs to be a thing. And I don't think that like a fetus we can say is worse off because it never was in the conscious sense. And when we say that something's worse off, we're referring to taking like a conscious entity and then making it in a non-preferable state to the prior state.
The definition of harm is physical injury. You're certainly killing it, which is physical injury,
What
especially when it's
what do you think it
deliberately
means to
inflicted.
what do you think it means to injure something?
Well, I can give you a definition. Here, let's just look up the word injured. All right. Harm, damage, offended. That's that one. But that once again, if we look at the word harmed, harm, physical injury. When you
Yeah,
are ending the fetus, you are physically injuring the fetus to end its life.
yeah. So like if you're I don't know if you're using Merriam-Webster, but under that the second definition, the B section is going to be more applicable to the conversation since we're having more because my position is a legal one and it's the violation of another's rights for which the law allows an action to recover damages. And I don't think that there's a violation of rights here. I don't think that we can say this fetus has rights because we don't give rights to plants simply because they're alive. We give rights to humans because they have some type of conscious experience. The same way that we call something brain dead when we think that it'll never recover and have conscious experiences again. Then we
Why
bury
can
them.
we charge? Why can we charge people with higher crimes if they kill a pregnant woman?
If you're just asking like why
What's
does
the
the
case
legal system if you're
under the
asking
law? Yeah,
yeah, if you're asking
because you're
like why
going by
the
the
legal
law, right?
system
They'll count it
well,
as a person.
well if we're going yeah, if we're going by the law, there's the federally recognized domestic like violence law recognizes that abortion is okay even though if a man beats his wife and kills
Did you
the
just
fetus
skip my
inside of her.
question? Did
Well,
you
no,
just? I didn't say
I'm answering it
abortion.
directly. Yeah, yeah, I'm
Okay.
giving you the example of the law, which says that if a man beats his wife and the fetus dies, he gets charged with this
Mhm.
special crime compared to if he just beat his wife and she wasn't pregnant. And in that same law, it says that it's not applicable to abortion. I agree that we can say, look, there seems to be some counterintuitive things inside of our legal system that should be fixed. I think there's like really bad things when we have legislators who don't know anything, like in Texas, where 3 women have died because they haven't had like life saving operations, which would be classified as abortions. I know you don't agree with Texas. I'm just saying when we have uninformed legal parties, we're going to have bad things happen. Same as if we have legal parties write laws, sometimes there's going to be uh, like contradictory ones. Like we have a federal law recognizing fetuses as victims, but in that same law it says that you can have an abortion. But if it recognizes it as a fetus, isn't there some type of argument to say that as a victim, isn't there some type of argument to say that it should have a fundamental right? Yeah, I would agree, but I just think that that law should be appealed.
Yeah, I mean, listen, yeah, we're debating on what should be legal and what shouldn't be legal. So, I mean, current case law isn't really the, I guess, the subject of the. But yeah, man, I don't know. I just don't want to kill little ones, man. We got a million little ones. It's getting offed every year, man. A million
Yeah,
of them.
little ones is like
Double. You know what? You know what? That's double the amount of the next highest killer, which is like heart disease.
yeah.
Isn't
So
that crazy to you?
it's
Don't you think it's crazy that
you're
we kill almost a
conflating.
million? I'm just asking you a question, man. Don't you think it's a little wild that we kill almost a million people a year
I don't
because
think we
of
kill a million people.
economic issues and fear? Almost a million.
But I don't think
In
they're
the 80s,
people,
we were
right?
80s over a million. Oh, I should let me make sure that I use the right language with you, Trick. Humans, human life. If you prefer to like devalue them and call them non-people, right? This is the very point of my argument.
Devalue begs
Is
the
you
question.
have the topic of the debate is not about valuing or devaluing. You're clearly devaluing them because you're not you how you devalue them is not labeling them persons. So that way it's okay to end the
Well, no,
life of them.
no, but saying no, I reject the idea that they had any like person value to begin with, right? So when you say
Oh,
I'm devaluing them,
well,
you're
you
just begging the
personally think
question.
they have value. No, no, no. Well, personally, you think God gave them value.
I think there's a hierarchy of value, and I think that a fetus's value is the exact same as my plant. And if somebody
Do
came,
you? Do
yes,
you really think that? You think
up until
Jesus would
up
really,
until
as a
20 weeks,
Christian, you
yeah,
would say that to God? Oh, you would tell God that up to 20 weeks. You'd be like,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that fetus has the same value as this plant over here.
Well, yeah, I like to go with science and science,
No,
even as
hey,
a Christian,
more power to you,
and
my brother. More power to you.
yeah, and science and neuroscience seems to indicate that conscious experiences start to occur around 20 to 26 weeks, and I'm okay with erring on the side of caution and saying at about 20 weeks should be the cutoff for abortion. And if prior to that a thing has never had a conscious experience, then I'm not going to say that we did a morally wrong thing, because morals and what it means to do something wrong require some agency there. I don't know what it would mean to say that there isn't agency.
It's yeah. I mean, listen, man, you're brave, man. To say that God didn't have a plan for these little babies, this life that was growing inside these women, and you're going to tell God that that fetus has the same value as a plant because it hasn't got consciousness yet. It's cool.
Yeah,
Listen, I just don't like I said. I value life, man. You're never going to be able to talk me out of not valuing life. I'm not going to make excuses for why we should end it. Right? I'm not going to try to not call them people. I'm not going to say that they're inferior or they're not as experienced as us. I'm not going to say they're just a clump of cells.
yeah,
Right?
but you're just
I'm
not
just
giving
gonna
an
say they
argument.
have value.
You're just emoting, right? So I'm saying there is reasons to
Yeah.
think they are a person at 20 weeks, and you're not giving me any reason to think they're a person prior to that.
Well,
And you're using
that's
and you're trying to tell me I'm using some like weird
that's
definition of
your
person.
point. I don't care about personhood. That's what you value. I'm not going to try to
That's what the
convince you of
legal
personhood.
system. Okay, so
I'm not
wait,
having a debate with
you
you
value
about the
plants then,
legal
right?
system. You're misconstruing what my debate is about. Our debate is about pro-life versus pro-choice, not about like the technical legalities of our legal system now. I'm arguing that we change our laws and that we make them uh, the more pro-life position. Right. So that's what the debate's about.
Yeah, so okay, I understand what you're saying. Um, I've made two separate arguments. The first argument was the same way, and it seemed like you made a relative like a concession for the most part for the first idea, is the same way that you value two existing children. You're just conceding that there's a hierarchy of values there. You're not saying that every
By what
fetus in the
standard would I
womb.
be appealing there? If you're saying I think am I appealing to my personal standard? Am I
I
appealing to a
don't.
God standard there? What do you
I don't.
think's going on here?
I don't know if it's like pretty relevant for the discussion. So
Well, I guess my
when I
point
ask
is you're
you,
trying to
I'm in the
play
middle.
mind
Please let me
reader and
finish.
well,
Please let
you're
me
just
finish.
straw manning me. Go ahead.
Well, no, I'm not strawmanning you. The first question I asked you at the start of the open discussion is, would you save the 100 eggs or the two children? And you said you would save the two children because they're going to experience pain, which means there's some hierarchy of value there because you recognize every fetus in the womb as a life. So presumably you would recognize every fertilized
Nope.
egg as a
Would you like me to
life.
tell you what I meant now, or are you going to continue to straw man me?
So you, just to be clear, you
Just let
didn't
me.
say
Why don't
you
you
would
just
say.
let me explain it? Why don't you just let
Yeah,
me
I'll let you
explain?
explain it. I just want
Oh
to.
my
I just want to
lord, dude.
know. I just want to know right before you answer. Is it not true that you said you would save the 2 children, and then you can elaborate?
That's not the part that I'm objecting to.
Oh, okay. Then go ahead. What are you objecting to?
I'm objecting to you thinking there's a hierarchy of life in that scenario. Lives are equal, right? You asked me just on a subjective level, what would I probably do in a tight like uh, situation, trolley car prop, and I went with in my mind subjectively like the pain that the little babies would feel, right? And I saved them on that level. It wasn't because I think that the life of these babies is any less than the life of the fertilized eggs. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, so you have a personal like value set where you think 2 children is more valuable than the 100 fertilized eggs. Otherwise, you would have just saved the 100 fertilized eggs. So if you're just trying to say,
Okay, wait.
if you look at, I'm talking now. I'm talking now.
Okay, you
If you were
saw.
to look at it, if you were, you that's it. What, I don't know what it would mean for you to. So you're saving something you don't value more.
No, it's not what I
Okay, so
said.
then,
You didn't listen to me. You're still not listening to what I'm saying to you. I don't say that the life is more valuable than the other in that scenario, right? What I simply said is I would probably just save the babies because the babies are going to have to feel this fire or whatever the scenario was burning up, right? It doesn't mean that those
that means you
other
value
lives
that
weren't
more.
found. No, it doesn't. I value both lives equally.
Wait,
Maybe you could say I value
you don't.
babies not suffer. Hold on. Maybe you can say I value babies not suffering more than saving more lives. Maybe you can argue it like that, but I certainly value the lives the same.
Well, yeah. Well, if you, I don't know what it would mean for you to value them the same, because you have one side that has 98 more lives than one side, and because one can experience pain, you decided to save the one that has the much smaller minority. So yeah, you're either saying 2 children. Okay, here, if the children are unconscious and in a coma and won't experience the pain of the burning building, then what would you do?
Why are we not talking about abortion anymore?
I think it's relevant to the topic. Do you want me to
Why
outline
are
why it's
asking?
relevant?
No, I don't. But it seems like you're trying to get me to answer a hypothetical, and then when I answer it, you just straw man my position, right? And say this must mean that you feel this way, which you can't read my feelings. Instead of just asking me, do you value all life equally? I just would have told you yes, but we're sitting here playing these little games where you're
Well, yeah,
like,
you
hey, would
just
you
said
say
that.
this
Yeah.
many fetuses or this many babies? So my answer to your question is there is no hierarchy. It's equal to me.
Yeah, so yeah, and you said it's equal, and the reason you would save the 2 children is because one is going to experience pain and the other isn't. So now I'm just changing the hypothetical to where you have 2 children that are.
Like I've answered your question. I've said that it's not a hierarchy. I'm
Yeah,
not going to
I
continue to
understand.
answer hypotheticals that are not about abortions. You can ask me a hypothetical about abortion.
This is relevant to abortion.
No, you
It's
could
a
try
consistency
making an
check. Yes, it
argument.
is.
This is not making your. What you're
Okay,
trying to do is
that's fine.
straw man my.
I won't ask
I've
you.
told you
I
my
won't ask
trick.
you
I've
then.
told you
I just said I
trick.
won't ask
I've
you.
told you trick. Then stop talking, over talking me. I'm responding to something, right?
Didn't ask anything.
I told you my position, right? And all you're trying to do is keep bringing up hypotheticals to try to get my position to not sound like my position, right? To try to get me in some type of contradiction. That's the little game you're playing. That's why I'm saying just accept it and make your argument.
Yeah, so I'll just outline it since you refuse to answer the hypothetical because I have no idea. So the reason that I sufficiently changed the variables to where you can't use the idea of one's going to experience pain is to see if you're consistent. If you're saying you value human life all the same, then presumably if the two children are in a comatose position where they won't experience pain, you would save the 100 fertilized eggs. And I think the reason that you wouldn't answer that question is because it seems optically bad. And the majority of people, if not 99% of people, would all save the two children because everybody recognizes that the personhood, the experience, the fact that they've had experiences in the past and they're likely to have them in the future again if they wake up from the coma is something that we value not only as a society but individually more than something that's never had a conscious experience and given 9 months would potentially have a conscious experience, and that's not even guaranteed. I think it's anywhere between 40 and 60% of women have a miscarriage. So you are the minority here. The majority of people do not agree with you that every life is equally as like valuable. You don't even agree with that. You don't value plants that you do a human, and I don't know what. So life isn't equal to value even in your
These are
view.
straw man's. First of all, I didn't say human life and plant life are equal. Right? That's a straw man in my position. And I said all human life is equal. Big difference. Like all I'm here, like I got it. You don't think these lives, these human lives, growing inside of their mother, are people, and that you believe because they don't have consciousness yet. Keyword yet, right? It's okay to end their life. I value human life. I see how human life can do great things. I think humans deserve the opportunity to bare minimum live the very thing that everybody listening to this debate is doing right now. And yeah,
that's just so the issue is like the massive amounts of like appealing and equivocation there, right? These people aren't simply living, right? If I have a person who's brainless in a bed and has like wires where it's a life, that's a human life, right? And
yeah.
you're saying that that thing that will never have personhood ever again, the doctors declared it brain dead, it will never recover. You're saying, oh, it has value, we ought not kill it.
Yeah, let me give you an example, right? Let's say you had someone that knew they were really sick and they were going to be at this stage at some point, right? And they were like, "Hey, I want this. I want to keep living even though my brain is no longer there." Right?
I don't know what
That's
that would mean.
perfectly. You don't know, you've never had a loved one like in a coma or anything like that, or
They have
had
a brain. I don't know what it would mean for someone to not have a brain and have desires.
oh my lord. Hey, my brother, you can show some charity. I'm just talking about someone being really sick, right? Or someone no longer having consciousness but still being alive. Have you ever seen that before?
Someone not having consciousness but still being. Are you like? What do you mean? Are you talking about someone
Oh,
being
oh my
asleep?
God. Never mind, Trick. Never mind, Trick. Never mind. It's
What,
not worth my time. Dude,
if
do
you're
you know
gonna
anything
emote,
about
that's
the
fine.
world? My trick. It's like I'm talking to a 5-year-old. If you've never seen someone who's not conscious, or even seen a movie or a TV show about someone who's like is on machines and stuff, right? There's all kinds of legal fights that happen in our system over this type of thing. Because sometimes, like one part of the family wants to keep them on machines. Sometimes one part of the family doesn't. Then they have the wishes of the people to consider. Like you don't know about any of this.
Yeah, so the reason that I asked that question, and I'll outline since you just wanted to emote
No,
instead
I
of
want you to
answer me.
answer my
I am
question.
answering.
I
I
want
am
you to,
answering.
do
I
you
am
know
answering. You're
about
interrupting me. I haven't
are you
interrupted you. You're
familiar
being very
are you
disrespectful.
familiar with any
Please
of
let me
that?
finish. So yeah, I'm answering you, right? And I'm gonna qualify after you character assassinated me and then answer the question, and I think that's okay. So the reason I asked my question is because when we say they're not conscious, now that's just going to be appealing to our intuitions of the fact that they're not having a waking moment currently, but they're still going to be having brain activity. People in comas report having some type of experiences while they're in there, which I would qualify as some type of consciousness. If you're saying this person doesn't have consciousness and will never have consciousness again, that's what we call brain dead, which just means they're dead dead. So when you give me an example of someone in a coma, the reason people fight for them is because the doctors tell them there's brain activity and they have the chance that they will have another waking moment. That doesn't mean they're not having any conscious experiences at all. Now, there isn't examples that you can show me where doctors are like, hey, here's a brain dead person, and then people are like, oh, well, we want to keep them. The doctors are like, no, they're dead. They're not going to recover. That's what it means to be brain dead. That's the issue, and that's why you're equivocating, and you are the one that's unaware of the neuroscience field and what it means for something to be conscious, my friend.
Okay. Thank you. I just don't know why you didn't accept the first time when I just said something like a person isn't conscious anymore or sick in a bit. It's okay though. It's all right, Trick. Uh, I get it. I said once again, your whole argument to me this afternoon has been about personhood. You don't think they're people, therefore it's okay to end their little lives. I value them. I see potential in them. I see the wonders that life brings. I see the beauty in our world. And whenever, throughout history, once again, we've devalued human life, it's ended in atrocities, whether it be Nazi Germany or slavery or the 1 million abortions that happen every year,
Just begging the question.
almost in the United States. Oh no, these are all facts of reality. All these things are because of devaluing of human life.
You're just
right?
assuming
And
there's value. That's just begging the question.
Sure, let him finish.
Yeah. So you could say, well, listen, I'll even make the argument. If you want to make the argument that human beings don't value each other, right? And you want to make the argument there is no value in human beings because the examples I gave weren't just fetuses there. It was the Nazis, it was in slavery, right? And what happens in every group, right? Just like in Rwanda, same thing is you find a way to say that these people, for whatever reason, are not equal. And therefore, they don't get the same treatment as I. Right. And what you're saying is the life that's growing inside these mothers doesn't have personhood. Therefore, it is not equal. And we can do these atrocities to it.
Atrocities is also going to be a term that begs the question, same as like anytime you say it devalues, because the thing I'm rejecting is it doesn't have the value of personhood. And you just said we devalue persons so we can do atrocity, which just means there needs to be this understanding that they were a person, and then we strip that away from them. If they never possessed personhood to begin with, I don't know what it means to devalue them. So every time you sit here and you emote and you posture, it just shows you that you're just trying to get some optical advantage. I can do the exact same thing, right? I can say that you're not valuing all the women, the 500,000 women who are abortion patients that make less than $16,000 a year, and the 26,000 women, or the 260,000 women, sorry, that get abortions who are under $40,000 a year for a family of two, and you don't care about the 31% of the women who already have kids who want to focus on that kid, and you just want to force women to give birth, and you want to make them suffer, and you want them to be screaming and saying, "Oh, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do this," and you're like, "Shut up, bitch, give birth," right? We can sit here and we can be bad faith and we can posture and we can emote all we want, but that doesn't seem to be very productive, does it, Skylar? I can do the same thing as you if you want.
Yeah, let me address some of those things. It's actually some good points here about the devaluing of women, right? So let's talk about as I opened my debate with, as I talked about, I would first fix the economic issues, right, before I would ban abortion. So when you say, hey, you're forcing women in this poverty to have babies, like, well, that wasn't my solution. That was just a straw man of my position. When you start talking about uh, what do I value more, and this is ultimately what the abortion debate really comes down to, is do you value the life inside the mother, or do you value the bodily autonomy of the pregnant woman more? That's what it comes down to. And usually on the pro-choice side, they value the mother more. On the pro-life side, we value the child more.
Child begs the question.
Listen, we could keep doing this little begs the question thing, man. I'm really not going to respond to it, right? Uh, I'm talking and speaking to an audience. You don't have to identify things as human, right? You don't have to think it's their child, their offspring. I could tell you, I have two children. We lost one, right? And I can tell you the one that we lost certainly didn't view it as a clump of cells or non-person, right? Because
if
when
you're
you
just
see the little thing, excuse me, can you just allow
sorry.
me to finish, please? Right. Um, you may not see it as a person, right? But that's like that reflects you and the way you value life, human life, whether you want to call it a person or not. Go ahead.
Yeah, that just seems to be like more emoting to me. We already know that humans will like see agency where it's not. People are scared of the dark because when they hear noises, they assume agency, even though the majority of the time it isn't. People hear a rustle in the bushes and assume it's another animal and they assume agency there. So it makes sense that if you know that this process brings about a future agent at a certain point, you assume agency within it, especially if you have it reacting to stimuli. There's people out there that think plants are agents and have conscious experiences because they will grow a certain way to get to the sun. They will react to external stimuli, right? But that isn't a good argument to think it's an agent. Simply saying, "Oh man, we view it as an agent, me personally, therefore it is." I'm going to cite the neuroscientists that say, "Hey, look, it seems that agency begins around 20 to 26 weeks. And if I have the experts on my side, then I think that's a pretty reasonable position to take. And if something has never had agency prior to that, then I don't think we can do heinous acts against it, because what it means to do heinous acts is to imply that there's some type of victim, which implies agency. And there is an agency. I don't know what it means to be a victim if you aren't an agent.
So it's interesting the words that I use versus what Trick uses. You'll notice that I constantly use the word human life, which is scientifically true. It is both human and it is alive. What Trick has to keep going to is like trying to say that I have to prove to him that it's a person, and that's not the part that I value. I value the life part, right? I know most likely, even if it's not most likely, there's a very good chance it will develop consciousness, and I'm not willing to stomp that out over fear, over economic issues. You may be just not my
If you could
thing.
snap your fingers right now and ban abortions, would you?
Do I get all my economic stuff
No,
done with
just
it?
just abortions.
Oh well, no, I'm not going to do that.
So then I don't know. So then if we just agree that abortion shouldn't be banned right now, right? Because what it seems like your argument hinges on is, if we take away all the reasons to have abortions, we should ban them. Well, if we take away all the reasons that someone would have abortions, there just would be no abortions.
Oh no, abortion. Just like drugs, there'll always be people using drugs. There'll always be people doing abortions. No, that will
What's
always happen.
if we
Are
take
you
away all the
confused about
reason?
something?
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah,
No.
I'm confused with the idea that
Yeah,
if we strip away the
because
reason someone has an abortion, why they would have
you
one.
never. There's no such thing as a utopia. That's the answer to your question, Tricky. Right? You never can fix all the problems, even if you got the best answers.
So then, how do you think you're going to fix like? Okay, you think you're going to make it to where no one is under the federal poverty level?
Did I state that as a goal? No.
Okay, so then what
Well,
does it
I
mean
mean,
to
we
fix
wait.
the
Well, wait a
economic
minute. We
problems?
might. Well, we might be able to. Actually, I think we could. I think if we had the right bills and we had the right stuff, I think we could get to that. Actually,
Okay, so you think that so you're like, yeah,
whatever
we
you have to
shouldn't
say, you
ban
think it's really
you.
bad
Okay,
because you
I will
always
say
butcher my position.
I
Yeah.
I think it's funny that this idea that we should ban abortions, but only after we get this utopian idea of no one being under the poverty level is asinine, and it'll never happen, right? There's always going to, the way that the economy works in the United States, there's always going to be someone down there at the bottom level. There's always going to be people in poverty. It's always going to be the people who are at that poverty level that seek out abortions. We also don't have reasons to think that when we ban
Yeah, we don't
abortions,
all that.
the rate of abortions is going to go down. In third world countries, the rates for per capita are relatively similar, even though these the women know they're risking a 1 in 5 chance that they're going to die having these like black market abortions. Abortion rates don't seem to go down when they get banned. So banning them just seems to cause even more harm for life. They go get
Where
them
do you?
anyways.
Where are you getting that data from? Where are you talking about? Where
Yeah,
are
I
you
can link it.
appealing to when you say the abortion? Yeah, but what is it?
Yeah, here,
Tell
I'll
me
pull it up.
about it. You said when they eliminate abortions. I'm just trying to wonder where they
I said we have no
eliminate
reason to.
abortions at.
I said we have no. Well, the number of people inside of the United States that like cross borders to get abortions. Like, look, if we look at there's plenty of
What? But
states.
you're not. Where did they eliminate abortions?
Texas
Is it completely eliminated in Texas?
is it?
Oh, I'm asking you.
Okay,
Is
wait.
it?
So when I try and ask
Trick,
you,
man. I have a feel. I have a feeling you don't really know this stuff, and this is why you're
if you're just
kind
gonna
of going
emote,
back to talking
I'll
about
do it
me.
too.
But I think we're about the hour mark. We're getting close to it. So
We
good.
have
Say what
nine
you
more.
gotta
We have
say.
9 more minutes. We have 9 more
Okay,
minutes.
good.
Okay, yeah. So yeah,
Lovely,
but
lovely.
I can link the world population review if you want, talking about where we can see like the abortion rates like per 1,000 women, and we can see that in like countries that don't have standardized health, there's really close to the same. Well, actually, in countries that don't have standardized health, there seems to be more abortion rates per 1,000 women. And I'll be happy to just personally DM that to you right now,
Yeah,
since you tried to say I
like
don't know
where? Could you
anything
give me
about it.
one country? Could you tell me just one country off the top of your head?
Um, yeah, I can just pull one up. Vietnam, Madagascar,
Okay, I
Cuba,
got you.
India,
Thanks for
Greenland,
pulling it up.
Cambodia all have
You're
higher rates of
reading it
abortion than the
now.
United
So
States.
now you can throw it in the chat for me. I'll check it out.
I already personally DM'd it to you, like I said I would. I have
Oh,
all this on
good.
my Google
Thank
Doc,
you.
right? I don't know why you want to
I'm sure you
posture
do.
and try and. Yeah, look, unlike you, I did preparation for the debate, and instead of sitting here saying, "Oh, I value it, therefore I want to make my personal views the thing that all women have to follow," and I don't really care if I make women have like give
Did you
birth.
become a
So,
mind reader? Did you learn how to read minds before this debate, to where you can tell what I'm thinking and what I'm doing about studying or preparing for a debate?
well, if you are for abortion bans, that just means you value something more than the women that you're forcing to give birth, and you said that's human life.
Oh, we're going to something else. Say that again. You have a question for me or something?
No, that was a statement. It was a true statement. I
Oh,
didn't have a
okay.
question. Yeah,
All
just
right.
like
Okay, that's good.
yeah, yeah. I do have a question though. I don't know why you would sit here and try and say I don't know something about the topic when all I had to do was scroll through my doc to
This
give you the
sounds
link
like
for
meta.
something.
This sounds like meta. Do you want to wrap up, or you want to say your closing statement, or you want to ask me nothing else about the abortion?
Yeah, you
A
can.
Debate.
couple of minutes. Why don't we just take a couple of minutes apiece? Why don't we do this? Trick, since you started, why don't you go ahead and give a maybe 2 minutes closing statement, and then we'll let Skylar do the same. Your thoughts
Sure.
about the debate.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So I think to everybody in the audience, they could clearly see that there was zero argument given for why a fetus inside of the womb is a person. All that was said was inside of the womb, it's a life. And I think that everybody inside of the audience knows that if somebody's brain dead and we have them hooked up to wires and their body is functioning, that we're not going to see that as the same type of value as your neighbor John, who can walk up to you and shake your hand. But for some reason, Skylar does seem to value those pretty equally. He says they're all equal. He also, for some reason, didn't want to answer the optical question of if we had two unconscious, unable to feel pain children in a burning building and 100 fertilized eggs, which one he would save. He seemed to want to scurry away from that question because he knows he's going to look optically bad to save the 100 fertilized eggs and let two children who've already had some type of prior experience burn and die. Um, the first time he answered the question, it seemed like it was very clear to everybody as well that he does have this hierarchy of values intuitively, and then after being called out on it, he wanted to backpedal a little bit. But I could be wrong. I could be assuming malice. Maybe I am. I do think that there is a lot of malice here, since Skylar wanted to personally attack me multiple times in the debate, say I'm uninformed on the topic, and steamroll me, interrupt me, bring up his own personal experience about his children, and then call me out for meta. I just think the whole conversation, anyone who watches it back, will see that he's being a big hypocrite and didn't make any substantive points. Thank you.
All right, Skylar, you got 2 minutes, buddy.
Yo, first of all, I just want to shout out the Panhandlers room. Panhandlers, best room on the server. I said it. Secondly, I want to make sure everybody understands the debate wasn't whether a fetus is a person or not a person. Debate was about pro-life versus pro-choice, and whether we should have legal abortions under a certain amount of weeks. My argument is human life is valuable. Human life has great potential. And every time we devalue human life, it leads to great atrocities such as Nazi Germany, slavery, segregation, eugenics, you name it. We devalue human life. We have violence upon each other. It does not work. I am very sympathetic to this issue. I understand women's fear, right? Lots of men are complete losers that don't support their women, that run out on their women. They are shameful, and it's just awful, right? And I understand the fear that of letting the government, come in and uh, you know, regulate your uterus, right? I know as a man, I wouldn't want the government coming in here telling me what I need to do with my junk, right? So I can understand, and I'm just trying to get more people on the side of valuing human life. I don't vote for pro-life politicians, right? Mostly because they suck now, and I'm not a big fan of the Republican Party at this moment in time. But if we can start valuing human life, we can get these numbers down to a reasonable rate. We may not even have this national debate anymore about whether it should be legal or illegal, because it will just be almost so non-existent we don't care about it anymore. All right, thank you. It was fun. Appreciate you, Converse, for hanging out and doing this for us, man. Last minute, my brother.
Yeah, of course. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for that pretty cordial debate. It's nice to not have to jump in. So debates without moderation sometimes are better. So yeah, appreciate it to both the people involved. And yeah, thanks a lot. We'll end it here.